Remember that Tony Pulis Stoke side that were in the Premier League for 10 years? Well, it turns out they never finished above 9th place. So that gave me an idea. Can I rebuild Stoke City in the Premier League with a team that's focused around scoring as many headers as possible? Well, that's what we're going to find out. But this time, instead of just long throws, we're doing a lot of long ball. If you didn't watch my first Stoke video, then check it out right here, but basically, we filled the team with long throwers and launched about a dozen throws at our huge striker every single match. Eventually, we made the playoff final, and in the 90th minute at Wembley, he scored a corner header. It was perfect Stoke, but now we're back. We're a level higher, and we're looking to evolve our game to even lower heights. So, after promotion, we need to make at least 5 new signings, but actually we've got enough money to buy anyone we want, so it was actually quite easy to afford this squad. Now nearly everyone is bought, let's break down a long ball 4-4-2 and tell you how it really works. Well, of course, we're trying to move the ball from back to forwards as fast as possible, so we really did need a long ball specialist at centre back. In this case, it's Mr. Jacob Harry Maguire. At the other end of the pitch, alongside our huge Czech Republic striker, we need someone a bit more technical. It was a great time for our Austrian prince to return, Marko Arnautovic, now 36 years old. He's 6'4", but really good on the ball. He's the definition of good touch for a big man. Maybe you'll now understand how the rest of this tactic works. Chori is 6'7", he has aerial plus and power header playstyles. Castro Montes, Sommers, Ravic, Abdul Hamid all have the long throw plus playstyle. Shaqiri is our set piece mastermind, while Miguel in goal is another 6'9" player, but even he has goalkeeper long throw. Hopefully you agree, but Lerma and Matic really does fit the era of Pulis Stoke so well. I think the entire team is pretty believable as well for a newly promoted team to the Premier League, and to be honest, I have no idea how well long ball works in FC25. Headers on simulation sliders are actually quite hard to pass, let alone score, so are we just going to be relying on Chori to knock a dozen balls down to Arnautovic every single match? Well, let's find out. Before we dedicate our season to playing long ball, we need to actually test that it is possible. Pre-season is a really good chance to test new ideas. I said the same thing last year, and it turns out that long throws and long ball can actually work together at a higher level. It is quite hard to get long balls to go to Chori instead of Arnautovic, but that's exactly why we went for 2 huge strikers. I think this can definitely work. So, with our board happy for us to just avoid relegation, we have bigger hopes. 8th place and Europe would be mega. Either that or a trip to Wembley in the FA Cup final. It's ambitious, but our opening day was against Aston Villa, and if this ends in a win, maybe it would be possible for this Stoke City side to be playing in Europe next year. I think the definition of a long ball is very vague. I mean, does that one count? It was a chip pass through to Arnautovic, who controlled it and smashed it in the top corner. Can we say we've scored a long ball goal? Honestly, I don't think that we can. Now, I know I said something very similar to this in last season's episode, but we have figured out that there is about 4 parts to creating a good long ball team. There is buying the players that can do long ball, so we have players like Harry Maguire and Chori, that's about all that you need. Then you have to figure out how to do it. That is not how you do it. You have to be in space, much more like this pass right here. From once you know how to do the passes, it's all about figuring out how to do link up, and a lot of L1 runs are needed if you want someone to be on the end of your flick on. If you don't do an L1 run, you're probably just going to be heading it back where it came, and there's not really much point using the long ball. And finally, you have to figure out how to score from them. And as you can see, that is again the part that we are really struggling with on day 1 of this season. We can make the chances, we just need to figure out how to score the chances. So, it only took a single game for us to prove that long ball still kind of works in the top flight. But can we prove that long ball can beat an elite club? There's a lot of history between Stoke and Arsenal, but it's pure long ball versus pure possession. If there's one thing this game you can guarantee, it's surely that one of these 2 teams will score a set piece. The good news is that we were the first team to get one. We threw it towards Arnautovic, but this is one of the big problems of playing in the Premier League. Sweeper keepers. They will come out and they will collect every single corner, every single long throw, every single through ball. It makes long ball so necessary if we want to score a decent amount of goals this season. They can't come that far out, and Chori's always going to beat someone like Thomas Partey in the air. It's all about figuring out how to get past the defenders, which of course is double difficult when you're playing against Saliba and Gabriel. Eventually, Arsenal would score a possession goal. They played it around the midfield for about 7 minutes of the first half, before Trossard would then go and curl one in the top corner. But still, we did have threats, even against a team like Arsenal. It's fairly obvious that Premier League defenders are going to be better in the air than Championship defenders, but Because we have a striker with aerial, he is still able to win almost every single aerial ball that he goes for. It's about finishing it off, and he's still not the greatest at that. As Raya collects our last long throw of the game, there's still a lot of work to be done this season. So that's 2 games now and no goals from set pieces, and honestly no goals from true long balls either. Let's try going back to last year's tactic, but what we really need is an easy cup game. Instead, we're playing against Ipswich, who have a very similarly ranked squad. If you think back to last season, you might remember the Carabao Cup game against Cheltenham, which was the first time we actually scored from a long throw. Can we do the same thing with long passes in this match? Well, of course, that is the target. But if we can do it, that is another matter. As always, we start off pretty damn well. We get a shot in the first 10 minutes, which is palmed out for a corner, but nothing comes from it. Again, we go long ball to Chori from a throw-in, but can't get on the end of the knockdown. In the second half, we go for another long throw. Arnautovic fighting for it, but he can't get anywhere near it. While Chori does win the second header, it's easily defended by Ipswich, and it just feels like our entire tactic is not built to work on FC 25. Arnautovic doesn't have the pace that he used to have, otherwise we might have scored a goal there. But as the game was fading, the lack of pace, the lack of movement, and honestly, the lack of general talent in our squad was starting to become a little bit more obvious. But then, in the last half an hour, we started to figure out how long ball works. It started with this attack right here. Saeed would go huge straight to Chori, and that's when we realised what was causing all of our issues. We weren't doing L1 triggered runs when the ball was in the air. Eventually the game would go to penalties, and because it's not that important of a match, I thought I would just show you the winning penalty from Shaqiri. But I thought I'd include the match because it included the moment where we figured out how to use long ball. When you think about it, 2 wins from 3 games seems pretty good, but only scoring 1 goal in 3 games seems pretty damn bad. Needing penalties to get through there wasn't surprising, but finally, I think I might understand how to play long ball. We need to give the ball to our playmaker, who of course is Harry Maguire. Between him and corners like that, eventually we are going to score more goals, and it was great to see Chori finally scoring a goal in the Premier League. Before we started this season, I looked through every single Premier League team and tried to figure out which teams were the most vulnerable to our style of play. Fulham were definitely up there. In this game, for some reason, Marco Silva decided to play a fullback as a left centre-back, and we fully exploited that. Castro Montes was putting so many balls into the box, and Shaqiri on the other side as well. It was just a shame that Arnautovic couldn't head quite as well as Chori. To be honest, we didn't pick him up for his aerial ability. His height is a bit of a blessing, but we brought him on the pitch to be able to do things like this. A cool turn, get away from his man, and unleash a couple of shots. While we didn't score from that, it did prove that we were starting to learn how to attack properly, but we still can't quite defend properly. Sure, we have some very slow defenders like Harry Maguire and Axel Disasi, but Brown as a fullback got absolutely burnt by Adama Traore. When we're trying to fight for as many points as possible, things like that really aren't very helpful. But something that is helpful is when we can do long balls across the floor like that. Okay, fair enough, that one I will not include as a long ball or a set piece goal. But it had to be included because it was such an important winner for our season. Fulham are a decent team, and this was the win that would put us into the top half of the table for the first time this year. So, after 4 matches, we had proof that playing long ball is fully possible on FC 25. In fact, over the next 15 games, we scored some pretty nice goals, so I thought it would be nice to show off some of the best ones. And I'll be honest, we're not saving the best for first. I mean, that is a very scruffy goal, but it did come from a really good corner from Xherdan Shaqiri. Chori finally getting in a bit of a role when it comes to scoring in the Premier League. I don't know what happened to him because he became a bit of a monster. He won as a free kick on the edge of the box here against Manchester United. It's our first shooting range free kick, and what a free kick that is from Xherdan Shaqiri. Put straight into the corner. There is nothing that Manchester United's Emi Martinez in goal could do about that one. Absolutely loved scoring that goal. Against Manchester United, we kept the long balls going. What a flick on that was from Chori to Arnautovic, who was then played in. He scored, and he gave us the 3 points. Very important 3 points against Manchester United. Next, against Bournemouth, we had the long throw cannon coming out, and Chori would chest it down and smash it into the far corner. I was pretty happy from how much threat we had from the long throw, from the set pieces, the corners, the free kicks, as well as just from the long ball. That was Castro Montes heading it down to Chori, the opposite way around to what I would have expected. Next, against Leicester, Chori would turn on the halfway line after a long ball from Maguire, play it to Castro Montes, who had a ton of space, and that's getting whipped to Arnautovic. He brings it down, and that is a simple tap-in for our Austrian striker. You might have noticed from this little montage that we haven't actually scored from a corner in a long time. That's because they become almost impossible when you get to the Premier League. The players are so much faster, so much taller, so much better at jumping, and even with arguably the best target man in the entire game, if we win the header, it would just slice out for a goal kick. I don't know what it is about corner kicks, but throw-ins are just so much more fun, and we actually score a pretty nice one here against Middlesbrough. It's a typical FIFA finish, but the flick on from Chori and Arnautovic being in there is absolutely amazing to see. So I think we've now proven that long ball does work on FC25, but I've got to say, it's not very fun. Headers are awful, and while they are better than long throws, it is still so difficult to play a low block and have such slow players in your team. If you can get your midfielders close enough to win knockdowns, it is possible, but in the Premier League, defenders are so tall that even our set-piece threat has just about dried up. However, we can do something else to improve that aspect of our game. Sheridan Shaqiri's second spell at Stoke is basically over. We signed him for his dead ball playstyle, his 85 free kick accuracy and his 87 curve, but really we need better, and James Ward-Prowse is better. He's our 6th signing, and he's also the world's best set-piece taker, and he's put straight into our team for this FA Cup match. So, would James Ward-Prowse be the man that can make the difference to our season? In the first half of the year, we've done alright. We're through to the 3rd round of the FA Cup, as you can see here, but we're also 15th in the Premier League, and we have beaten some of the bigger sides. We've beaten Liverpool, we've beaten Manchester United, and our game plan does kind of work. It just needs that little bit extra if we want to get that top half finish. This is a great finish, just by the way, from Matic, but then it's finally time. James Ward-Prowse gets his first corner, he knocks it in, and Chori misses the target as usual. So that's kind of what goes on every single time we get a corner. We could score brilliant goals with him like that, where he turns his man and smashes it in, but it just seems like no matter what we do, we can't score that important corner goal. They were absolutely huge for us last year, including the playoff final, but that's kind of what we're dealing with every single time now, and we got a lot of corners in this match. Chori didn't even get a single one of them on target. I gotta be honest, after scraping past Oxford, it was time to go back to basics, back to trying to win as many throw-ins as we can, back to trying to just score basic goals. Maybe something a little bit like this. Abdul Hamid long throw, headed down, and Castro Montes scores. Even from Liverpool set pieces, we learnt we were a bit of a threat. Chori winning the ball, getting away from Joe Gomez, and Arnautovic was there to tap into a basically open goal. We'd also be using James Ward-Prowse wherever we could. His free kick wasn't quite as good as the Shaqiri one that went in, but he was still providing so much threat. We just somehow forgot how to score corners. But we had figured out fully how to play long ball. Maguire to Chori, to Arnautovic, back to Chori, and in the space of about 10 seconds, we've gone from our goal to scoring a goal at the other end. We got so confident, we even experimented with different kinds of corners, like this one where Chori heads it back and eventually, somehow, it goes into the back of the net. Not what we were expecting, but we'll take that every day of the week. Going into the last couple of games of the season, somehow we are just in the top half. Only just mind, and we could easily drop to 12th, just as easily as we could finish 7th. But we do somehow still have the best chance for the best Stoke finish in over 50 years. In fact, that season was the 2nd season in a row that Stoke finished 5th in the what was then called the English First Division. We're nowhere near that, but when Arnautovic sprung the offside trap, he had such an easy finish to put us 1-0 up, and if we can win both of these last 2 games, then who knows, maybe we can finish even higher than 8th place. I really do think this man, Alexander Isak, would be the perfect long ball striker for this tactic. The way that he just makes goals out of nothing, both in real life and in FC24, is perfect for such a huge striker. Instead, we have a now 37-year-old Arnautovic, but he provides a chance for Chori. It's a good near post save from Dubravka, but could have easily been a goal. The corner comes in again, and this time Cher and Harvey Barnes manage to keep the ball out the back of the net. So, when I set out to do long balls, I was thinking vertical ones, not horizontal ones, but they seem to work even better. The early cross is so powerful this year, and we score from yet another one of those. However, Newcastle have their own strategy, which involves Isaac doing a bit of breakdancing on the floor, and then flicking it onto Maguire's knee, and putting him in a pretty awkward position. This match really did give me the same feeling as that semi-final in the playoffs last year. We were 4-0 up in that one, and went on to draw 4-4, and in this one, we were 2-1 up, and already losing 3-2. We had a couple more chances from some set pieces, but I just couldn't believe how lucky Newcastle would get. Right there, the ball ricocheting back to them, Harvey Barnes then dodging a Maguire tackle by hurdling him, Bruno then making the best of a near post shot, and Miguel being absolutely nowhere. That just felt like such a lucky goal, and in the end it would actually hurt us quite badly, because it meant we were now down to 11th place. It's so tight at the top though, that if we can beat Chelsea, who are actually below us in the table, then we could still manage to do what we said in that first sentence of this video. Well, Ward-Prowse will have to be key if we can do something like that. We need some set-piece goals, we need a bit of magic, but instead it's a long ball that's flicked on, and Arnautovic can't quite get the finish right. In fact, we're so desperate to win that Chori actually received the ball on the floor rather than in the air, but still, we couldn't quite get the finish. We've been using this style now for a full year, so we know how to exploit it as fast as possible. Maguire up to Chori, and Arnautovic was one flick away from getting in behind. That was proof that after a full season of practice, even the most weird game styles can pay off. All we had to do now was defend, and yeah, we're not actually very good at that part of our game. So let's gloss over that and go back to playing long balls. Chori heading it down, Arnautovic nearly getting in, but we win the ball back, he turns his man, and I'm counting that as one of our goals. We go back ahead. It's not quite as dramatic as in the playoff final last year, but it could have an even bigger impact if we can somehow sneak into a European spot. Seconds to go, Blum kicks it to Arnautovic, and Sommers, the long ball thrower, has played a beautiful pass into Chori. We get into the box, and we're going to try and finesse it far post, but Kepa, the antithesis of long ball, is the man that stops the shot. We check the table, and somehow every result has gone our way. We've snuck into 8th place with just 55 points, and look how close that is. If we'd have won 2 less matches, we would have been all the way down in 13th, just 1 point ahead of Chelsea. I am very happy with how this save's turned out. I'm not sure that I'll do an episode 3, but hopefully you've enjoyed me turning Stoke from a basic championship side into a set piece and long throw masterclass that has taken the Premier League by storm, even though we have probably a combined 500 pace between our entire squad. But thank you for watching. If you've watched episode 1 already, then I really do appreciate that. But if you haven't, check that out, and I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.